Hello and welcome to Galactic podcast and show. I'm your host, Radhaa Nilia, and today we have a very special guest, Miss Lillie Love. Welcome, Lillie.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
She is an amazing divine feminine leadership, coach, and you can please explain all the things you do, because you do a lot of amazing things like Tantra.
Essentially I work with women predominantly and also couples and single people wanting to find their soulmate, twin flame, love, partnership. And the heart of what I do is really self-love and sovereignty and connecting to our inner source, inner authority, our higher self. And sexuality is a big piece that I working with the power and the healing power of our sexual energy. Sexual healing is a big piece that comes into it, especially for a lot of women, but men too. And then it just kind of like filters out into our purpose, our purpose and our gifts and our voice and our expression and our creativity. And then in relationship, like the path of relationship is like a spiritual growth journey.
That's beautiful. You're so expansive in the work you do and very powerful, and you have a beautiful influence on everyone around you. How did you get into the path that you're on? Because you used to be like a model. I think I saw some pictures. You were like supermodel.
I was a model and an actress. I grew up in a kind of a small town in like basically the outback of Australia. And I was like trying to find a way out of that town throughout high school, and modeling was kind of like my ticket out. But I always wanted to be an actress. So from modeling, then I went to acting school for 3 years in Australia. And then I came to LA, to Hollywood, and I lived there for about 5 years. And I'm in a quieter spot in California now. But I was acting in Los Angeles, and at the same time kind of on this healing journey and empowerment journey to kind of find myself. And through healing myself, I started taking like yoga teacher training and Tantra teacher training and breathwork classes and working with plant medicine and everything and anything that I could really to heal myself. And at a certain point, these tools and modalities and connecting with that life force energy inside of me, it filled me up so much. It healed. I had PTSD and depression, anxiety. I was having panic attacks. And it filled me up so much that it just became this overflowing thing that I had to give back. And I still had kind of a bit of a story of like, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a leader, I don't have anything of value to share. And I heard, spirit, my higher self, to say, it's not about you. Like, this is medicine that the world needs. Like, just my friends, all of my girlfriends were asking for this support as they saw me shift internally and how my life was shifting externally. And so it got to the point where I was like, okay, and it's such a beautiful journey to step into leadership as well. Like, what a growth, healing, journey to really put your kind of ego aside and surrender to the greater good working through you.
So beautifully stated. I really love that. And I get that so much. Like, keep surrendering. Like, the small part of the self is like, no, or I can't do this, or whatever story. But then you're like, no, I work for the divine. So how can I say no to the divine when the divine calls? I got to answer, And you step so beautifully into this path. I just see you like a blooming rose. And you're going to be doing Tantra workshops in the future too, yes?
Yeah. So I've been doing mainly women's Tantra workshops for about, 4 or 5 years now. And I've done a couple of co-ed here and there. But my partner and I are starting to step into leading co-ed Tantra workshops together. And he comes from mainly kind of a nonviolent communication background, and a lot of kind of work with indigenous communities and tribes and medicine. And his kind of brand is called No Bullshit Communication.
I love it.
And so he came up with this joke. He was like, what do you get when you cross a no BS communication teacher and a Tantra coach? You get no BS Tantra.
I love it. I'm gonna be signing for that. You guys do like teacher training yet, or are you gonna just be doing teaching?
That work we're just going to be doing basically couples and singles work, people who want to come into deeper integrity and mastery with their desire, their sexual energy, their life force energy, because it's powerful energy and we see it in the world, right? It's come out over the last couple of years with the hashtag Me Too movement. Of people not being in integrity with that energy, and we haven't been taught, you know, and we've been taught to suppress it. Yes. And so we need education around it, and we need to have these powerful, you know, real conversations, and learn ways to actually harness this energy, because if we don't, it will harness us.
Oof. Amazingly eloquently put. It is so important, and it is we're really seeing the bubbling of so much coming to the surface of how out of integrity we've been, and I think it can be overwhelming for people at times. Like they feel hopeless, and I think this kind of work is interjecting like, no, there's hope. We can reclaim our sexuality to be our own and to bring integrity to it. And whenever we're doing that, we're realigning the whole energy system of this, you know, place.
Yeah. And for us to really remember that, you know, it's not men against women, women against men, that we're in this together. That patriarchy, you know, severely wounded both of us. And, and that men have been, like, even more than women, taught to cut off from their feminine, from their emotion, from their heart. The only, you know, emotions they're really allowed to feel is like anger and then desire, arousal. And so if there's not a safe space for us to truly, you know, feel and explore our full capacity as humans, then, and it's suppressed into the shadows, and it's got to come out in some way, and it comes out in these weird, distorted ways that cause harm to ourselves and each other.
Yeah, I think what you said is so important and true, that the men have been affected by the patriarchy too, and that's something a lot of women haven't thought about. And for me, it's becoming much more in my awareness now that it's the men have been deeply wounded and hurt, you know, and it's important for them to have a safe haven too, because it's not been safe for them in the whole world to have feelings. So how could they start with anyone if they're not allowed to, right?
Yeah.
So much compassion there, because that's a big one. And if we could just bring more of that, which you're doing with the work, you know, with Joshua, and probably will be doing in your workshops, that will facilitate so much heart opening for divine masculine and feminine to come together. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're also a writer. You've done, I think I've seen quite a bit of your writing. You write a lot. And we're so excited to have you on Awakening Starseeds. You're such a bright light in the world, and to share your voice this way is deeply meaningful. And I'd love to ask you about what you might want to write about, or what you are writing about.
Yeah, I'm so honored to be part of it. So thank you for creating these platforms for the messages to get out to more and more souls that are waking up. Yeah, the gist of what I'm writing about is what I would say is like my major kind of hitting rock bottom, and from that awakening. It's like really a story of, you know, heartbreak to breakthrough. About 8 years ago, my mother passed away, and we were really, really close. And she was sick for a long time, but, you know, it was also kind of sudden, and you don't know when it's going to happen. And it broke my heart, and it sent me into a deep depression. And I realized that I believed that I came into the world. My purpose was for her, and to save her and to support her, and that was a big part of kind of my childhood and my journey. And so it kind of came to this point where I was not sure why I was still here if she wasn't here. So I had to find my own soul, my own purpose beyond her. And you know, really reclaim my own energy, my own journey. And really, you know, her passing was a catalyst for me to look at all of the kind of pain and the trauma and things that I hadn't dealt with my whole life, that I just kind of brushed aside and was, you know, in survival mode and putting my attention outwardly on others to try to fix and help them. And so I hit this point where I had depression. I actually had a lot of rage. And I didn't really know at the time, but realized that I had PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. And these like kind of rage episodes with my former partner early on in my healing process would just kind of happen. I was just triggered so easily. This abandonment wound was triggered, and for me, kind of like that anger was a way to protect myself. And yeah, it was like a scared animal. You know? And as I went through my healing process, uncovering, kind of getting underneath the rage, I discovered there was just deep, deep terror and fear that I hadn't healed, that I hadn't been able to process in the moments of trauma, and that were kind of running me. And then as I got underneath that fear, there was deep grief. And we're so taught in our society to push through and not grieve. We're like given, you know, antidepressants when we're grieving. And it's a natural process that our body actually needs to do. The soul too, but the body is the one that really holds on to the memories and the trauma. And if we look at animals in society, they naturally know how to release trauma. When they like get away, they escape death, they will shake and cry and howl until that fear and that grief is out of their cells, out of their body, and then they can move on with their life. So that's really what it's about, hitting rock bottom and having nowhere else to go except in. I couldn't no longer blame the outside world, my circumstances, my past, my parents, my boyfriend, my whatever, the government, you know, whatever. I had to look here and look in the mirror, and it was the hardest thing that I've ever done. To look and really see how much I didn't like myself, and how separate I felt from my core essence and my innocence, and like learn how to love those parts of me again. And it was the hardest thing and the greatest thing that I have ever done and will ever do and continue to do.
That's so beautiful and so relatable, and just, I think, the society so often doesn't want us to have, like, quote unquote sad or bad emotions. Like if you're not always like, hey, it's like, well, why are you such a Debbie Downer? Why are you depressed? Like, why are you going through this? And so it doesn't give us much room, because you're not, quote unquote, a high functioning person now, so you're not deemed useful. And I don't necessarily think that's true. There's a lot of great artists that go through things, and this, look what happens when you go through the whole process. Look at what happens for you, and I think that's so important to share with people, because people feel hopeless, or they feel like somehow they're like not worthy of love, their own love or anything, if they're not happy, because they're like, well, why can't I be happy? And it's like, well, because we're grieving our own wounds, but we're also grieving our lineage wounds, like 7 generations. And so we're really processing a lot right now on so many levels, and we need to have these kinds of conversations that are so authentic and real. Give people permission to breathe, because it's almost like they contract in that pain, and they're like, I can't do. They just can't open up again because they feel it's wrong. So they're shamed on top of that. And I think when you start to take away the shame and realize this is a natural process. I really like how you explain the body breathing through the grief, allowing the grief to come out of us. And it has to come out. If we just use medication and suppress it, then now we've got more layers in it, and that's when dis-ease, imbalance occurs. So we can't run from these things. We have to. The only way out is through. And it is hard. It is.
And and I kind of want to preface and say, like, I'm not a supporter of taking medication. I was offered it, and I really needed it at that time, but I didn't want it, because I didn't want to get stuck in that. And I know that it can be helpful, and it can be necessary if it's really like monitored.
Yes.
And you're doing it in a way that is like, it is just kind of helping you to process through some of that, and then that you're kind of like tapering out, and you're not going to be dependent on it. That's where it gets not helpful, when we become dependent on it, and it's a way to avoid our grief and our feelings. And it's such a it's so important to have support. It's so important to have, and not just talk therapy support when you're going through it, but like support to move the energy through your body. Like, go to breath classes, go to yoga, like, go to the beach, go to nature, do things to help. Like, nature is such a great healer and an energy mover to, and it's especially hard when you're in a depression. It's like, I don't want to move. I just want to be in bed. Like, you got to make yourself, or like get your friend to like get you out of bed and take you running or something.
That it's so important. Nature is a natural healer. I've always retreated to nature when I needed to heal through major crisis or things. There's something about that, just putting your phone away and going out, going for a hike, breathing, looking at the trees, coming to a place of gratitude is amazing. Yeah,
because as much as we as society really need to grieve and have, like you said, all this shame on top of I don't feel good, or I'm not achieving, or whatever, right? This like over focus on the masculine energy. There's also such an addiction to us not feeling good, an addiction to like our old story, an addiction to our pathways, the trauma. Exactly. The brain literally is like this is the pathway. We feel
Yeah.
bad. This is our story. We're
Yes.
hopeless. You
Yes.
know, it's like we have to be responsible to create a new story, and to notice like that old story, or that like shame or sadness that wants to just like take us down, and actually be like, I'm choosing to create this new pathway, this new story, this new reality.
Yes. And that's, so all of it's important, the feeling. And then also, while you're even going through the feeling, if anyone is going through that right now, like knowing that, okay, this is how I'm feeling now, but this is also equally available. And just because I'm here doesn't mean I'm not going to strive and create new neuron pathways in my brain and do everything in my power, like using essential oils, or getting more sunshine, or taking the right vitamins, and getting the right support from coaches, right? So we have to be proactive. I think that's the most important thing I can say, and that I hear you saying, is that being proactive in your life, like, okay, I'm feeling this way, I'm going to allow myself to go through this, and yet I'm going to take myself through the other side, because that is possible for me, for everyone.
Yeah, like you're walking through a dark tunnel, you don't stop there.
No, you
keep
don't
walking.
Stop there.
Or you're swimming in the ocean, you don't stop and let yourself
like,
drown. Like you got to keep going through. Yeah, you've
that's
got
such a good example.
getting somewhere.
Yeah, I saw the tunnel. Yeah, because it does look like that sometimes. You're like, well, I'm not really seeing the light. Just trust there's going to be light. Just keep going.
Just keep
and
going.
There's so many great people, you know, that can support you, like Lillie. You know, maybe it's something, maybe like getting more into your sacred sexuality, or different ways of self-love. Things catapult us. That's why I love learning new things all the time. I'll never stop. When I'm 99 years old, if I'm not lucky, I'll still be taking classes, and I'm always going to be a student, because it keeps your brain going. And when you're learning, you're engaged, you're present in the moment. We can't just stop where we are. We want to keep expanding, because that's part of how we're built. And I think when we're not doing something that's moving us in any way, that's when we can also go down. So we want to keep our ship up, keep it moving, keep taking classes, keep learning. I admire that about you, because you're always learning new things, or you're engaging and you're creating. And you know, the Conscious Cock series that you did is so awesome, and need to sign up for the next round. And you know, just like, that's what I mean. You have to be innovative, creative. When you're being creative, you're participating in the world, you're giving back. You know, and so when you're giving back, that's a way that also fills you up, right?
Yeah, and play, like what I'm hearing you say is like the inner child, you know, allow ourselves to like come back to play and creativity and like being silly. And
that's so important. And laughing. Laughter is, I laugh at myself all the time. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm just, you know, and that also helps give me permission to not be perfect. I'm not perfect. I never strive to be perfect, because that's an impossible dream. We're always changing. But laughing at ourselves, having humor, gives us permission to just be, because sometimes we just need to be able to be present, be. Wow, I love spending time with you. Thank you.
You too.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience about a message that you have, or the work that you do?
Well, you'd asked about teacher trainings, and I do have women's teacher training. So it's essentially leadership teacher trainings. It's called Embody Feminine Leadership, and we do that through retreats around the world. We have had just one in Bali, and we'll have one in January 2020 in Bali. The next one is in Ibiza, Spain in June. And then we're aiming for a Hawaii one in October. But yeah, those are like a 6-day women's only deep dive, and you know, it starts with self. It starts with
Mm-hmm.
self-empowerment, self-healing, and then it's an opportunity to train in many different modalities, including Tantra and kind of like neuroscience and inner child work, and then either going out on your own with that, bringing it to your own communities, or going all the way through and getting certified as an embodied feminine leadership trainer and leading these retreats around the world with us.
Amazing.
So that's a call that I'm putting out to the women in the world, because whether you know it or not, you are a leader, whether you're a mother or a businesswoman or a student, or you're not even sure what you're doing, or a healer, and you're trying to figure out, you know, your how you do it. And like this is a path for you, and we need you. Your voice is needed, and it matters in this world.
Beautiful. I'm feeling into this. Sounds very juicy. And do you have like a website for that you can give me, and I'll put it below?
Yeah, right now it's just on my website, but we will have ours up soon. So it's lillieclairelove.com, and then soon it'll be embodiedfeminine-leadership.com.
Perfect, you guys. So make sure you go on our website and sign up, and then you look out for her beautiful chapter in the book, Awakening Starseeds. Thank you so much for joining. It's such an honor to spend time with you, and
you too, sister.
You have such a beautiful healing presence and energy, and I enjoyed it. So have a beautiful day, guys. So much love. Thanks for joining us.
Love.